We all take risk, whether that be something as simple as walking down the street or driving your car, or something really extreme like skydiving or drinking pool water, which I wouldn't recommend. With these risks, there's some type of probability of you dying associated with it. Hello, it's your number one risk taker, YNW Melly. I've done my fair share of research, and it's safe to say that I'm scared to go outside. Like, quite literally, I look out my blinds every morning. With Intro to Environmental, we learned about risk assessment associated with contaminants on human health, with the simple equation of risk equals hazard times exposure. Before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's define risk so we all have an equal idea of what I mean when I say risk. Risk is the probability that an adverse effect or outcome will occur. Hazard is anything that produces an adverse effect on human health and the environment. Exposure is the qualitative and quantitative assessment of contact with the body by a chemical or environment. But my real life example that I'll be talking about today was something I would say is risky, exposing me to something I should have not been exposed to. But life is a tricky tunnel we traverse every day, like a tree bug trickling down a tree. It makes sense, trust me, it makes sense. I mean, it doesn't really make sense, but you might be wondering, YNW Melly, how is hazard, exposure, and risk calculated? Well, through studies made by third-party companies and universities. They do surveys to determine a number associated with an activity or chemical if you're exposed to it. According to King 3, or is that King Triple I? I don't know, but there are 900,000 elevators in the United States. The probability of you getting stuck in one is 1 in every 100,000 elevator rides. My story isn't me being stuck in an elevator. That wouldn't really be entertaining. It's about the time I got my arm stuck on the elevator door, which I think is cooler or scarier. I don't know. But imagine little YMW Melly. I'm done with that bit. Imagine little Jonathan with, a Miami Dolphins hat, the John Cena respect armbands, and the Sketcher light-ups, waiting on mother to get ready to go out in the park. I just got my new Razor scooter, and I was ready to, go crazy on that John. And while I was waiting, I decided to call the elevator door because my mom said she'll be out in a second. The elevator door opened, and it was still open. And mind you, before we get into how I got my arm stuck in the elevator door, the building I was living in was rather old, dirty, and outdated, to say the least. I think at the time, when I was like around 8 or 7 years old, the last time the elevator got inspected was like 5 years ago, when I was learning to walk. Basically, I was having a stare down with this open elevator door. The elevator door started closing. So I thought that, if I put my hand between the doors, the sensor would register my arm and open up again. When I put my arm through the elevator door, it closed on it. I began to worry. I tried to drag my arm out of the elevator doors, but nothing happened. It was stuck. My mentality at the time was, okay, at least it's not going up or down or, not exploding. But luck has it that the elevator door started rising up because someone else on the above floor started calling it. So, little 7-8-year-old Jonathan, I was going up with it. Yes, I was somehow going up with the elevator door. And I couldn't reach for the elevator button because I have really short arms, being that I was 8 or 7 years old. I just accepted defeat. But luckily, my mom dashed out of the room with her mom instincts, started running like that police officer from the Cloudy Chance of Meatball, and pressed the elevator button, which opened the doors and releasing me from my, future endeavor. At that moment, I realized that risk is everywhere. No matter how much we try to avoid it, there is always a chance of something happening. Nothing's 100%. With that being said, that is my story on how I took a risk and how I almost lost an arm because of it. But we shouldn't live in fear of something bad always happening through life. It's just something that we cannot determine. So we just choose to ignore it. Ignorance is bliss is the quote, right? But at least be mindful of the situation you're in and at least understand that risk is something that can happen. Thank you. I've been YMW Melly, and this has been my story about risk.